Okay, welcome to Kojo's Math Review, and we're covering today 10.1 through 10.5. Exponents are not on this test. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video, and I want you to work these problems. And then, when you're ready, turn the video back on, and we'll go over them. Welcome back. Well, let's see how you did. These are all addition and these are all subtraction because most of you have a lot of difficulty with subtracting numbers. But remember, addition will also be on the test. So when we have here 3 minus 7, the answer is going to be -4. What I want you to do is I want you to think about a thermometer. If you have difficulty with adding positive and negative numbers, I want you to think of a thermometer and the weather, because we all know what it means when it drops or it gets warmer or the temperature goes up. So for instance, first of all here, anytime you see two negative signs in a row, and some of you will call that a minus and a negative, but really you need to start saying that it's two negative signs in a row, now that you've had multiplying and dividing integers. So the minute we say that, we make a giant plus. We connect the two negatives and they become a positive. Now, -4 plus 3. For those of you who still get confused about that, I want you to think it's 4 below 0 and it gets warmer by 3 degrees. What's the new temperature? -1. That's what you should have on your paper. Here, 16 minus negative. When we read it, we say minus, but we treat it as a double negative, and a double negative becomes positive because we talked about a negative times a negative is a positive. So if we have two negatives in a row, it becomes a positive. That becomes 32. And then here's the one that's a stickler for most of you. -10 minus 20. It's 10 below 0, and it drops 20 more degrees. It's -30. Okay, over here, 10 times -3 is -30. This becomes -28. I'm showing you different ways to show multiplication. I could have a dot, meaning multiplication with parentheses, to include the -3. Here I have just a number next to the parentheses. I don't have parentheses around both of these, but this still means multiplication. 7 times -4 is -28. What do you do here? You have three numbers. You count the negative signs first and determine if the sign is positive or negative. 1, 2, 3. 3 negative signs. I'm multiplying. Odd number, the answer has to be negative. So now I go 1 times 3 is 3 times 4 is 12. I do that after. Here I count the negative signs. 1, 2. The answer is positive. 12 times 3 is 36. Now, I don't need to write a positive, but it's okay if you do for right now, just so that you don't get confused about your signs. Okay, so let's move on. Absolute value. Alright, I want you to pause the video and I want you to write the definition of absolute value, and then I want you to do these problems. Remember, what are these called? Did you remember? Yes, vertical bars. They're treated like parentheses, except when you bring it, you have to simplify inside before you do anything outside. So do these problems, pause the video, and then come back. This is going to be less than, greater than, or equal to. You have to show your work. Okay, welcome back. Getting some coffee. Now on the test, you can't just do all this in your head. This problem is going to be worth 3 points each. A point for the work, a point for the work, there's no work here so you're okay, and the sign. Most of the problems will be like this, where you have to show work on both sides. So this becomes -12, and then the absolute value of -12 becomes +12. That's how you show your work. This is -12. 12 is greater than -12. Absolute value of 4 minus 10. We go inside. 4 minus 10 is -6. The absolute value of -6 is +6. That's my work. I have to show that on the test. 16 minus 10 is 10. 16 minus 10 is 6. And the absolute value of 6 is 6. So it becomes equal. 6 is equal to 6. Down here we determined that we find the sign first. It's negative because we have 3 negative signs. Then 2 times 4 is 8, times 3 is 24, times 1, so we have a negative 24. See how I'm showing my work? And then the absolute value of negative 24 is 24. So this one is less than. What you get for the definition? A number's distance from 0 is what you should have. Anything else? No. It's a number's distance from 0, and you could say it's always positive. Actually, you should say that. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to remember these key things about graphing. If it's a simple equation, you just find 3 points by plugging in 3 values for x and finding what y is and then plotting the points. You have to label the coordinate points on the graph. Remember we've done A, B, C, and so on and so forth. Label the equation on the graph. These will all cost you points on the test. When you have a simple equation like 2x plus 1 equals y, that's going to be a straight line. When you're dealing with absolute value, it's going to be a V or a mountain, depending on the value of the absolute value. And you have to use 5 values for x, because you won't have enough because you need a V. You only need 3 here. You actually only need 2, but I want 3 because you only need 2 points to draw a straight line. I want 3 to make sure you understand how to plug in the numbers to solve for the variable y. In absolute value, you need 5 numbers so that you can see what the V is doing and where it falls. You always will plug in a 0 for x in absolute value. You always plug in a 0 for x for absolute value. You have to do that to find out what the core value of y will be. And then label, 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 label your graph. What I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and I want you to graph these two. Graph the equation, the absolute value of x minus 1 plus 1 equals y, and graph 2x plus 1 equals y. This is absolute value. You should immediately know it is a V or a mountain, an upside down V. But you know you better have a V on the paper of some kind. This one is a straight line because it's a simple equation because everything, the x and the y, are just to the first power with exponents. Pause the video and I'll catch you back here in a minute. Okay, welcome back. Here is the solution. We'll do the simple one first. 2x plus 1 equals y. You could have picked any points you wanted to. I picked negative 2, 0, and 2 and found out that negative 2 and negative 3, when x is negative 2, y is negative 3 because 2 times negative 2 is negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. Then I plugged in a 0 for x. 2 times 0 is 0, 0 plus 1, y is 1. Notice that I label my points. Now, I put parentheses around my coordinate points. You don't have to, okay? But you can. Then I have A, B, and C. On the quiz the other day, some of you just simply stopped right here. That's a line segment. You have to draw through the points and put arrows on each end because remember you're showing all the numbers, all the points that will make that true. Here's the absolute value of x minus 1 plus 1 equals y. Notice I have a 0 in for x. I have 5 points. I've labeled my coordinate points and I've put them on the graph. Now the other day, look at my V. It crosses over. I put my equation on the graph, but some of you did this the other day on the quiz. That doesn't look like a V. Well, you could say, but Mrs. Cohen, there's no more points. I didn't graph enough. But you know it's supposed to be a V. So you extend it. You go ahead and extend it and you put arrows on both ends. Okay. The last one is evaluating expressions. So I want you to pause the video and write these down. You have 2 different values for A. That means you have to do each expression twice. When you get to one like this, where you have two a's in the same expression, you don't use both of these at once, because a can only be one of them. So you have to do this where a is 3, and a is 3 here too. And then after, you start all over again, and then you plug in a -3. You notice here, these are two different variables with two different values. You only do these expressions once. Pause the video and do these problems. Welcome back. I have my little coffee break. Here we go. Here's the solutions. We plugged in, and I plugged in a 3 for 3 minus 4, and I got -1. And then I do the problem again, and I plug in a -3 minus 4, and I get -7. If you notice here, what does 3a mean? It does not mean 33 when I plug in the 3 for a. It does not mean 33. It means 3 times a, which would be 3 times 3 plus 2. We have to follow the rules of order of operations. When a is positive, we're not going to have any issues. But when a becomes negative, we make sure we have parentheses around it so we can see 3 times a -3 is -9, and -9 plus 2 is -7. Again, this is 2 times a. You should have 2 and -10 for 2a minus 4. And for this one, because we've used the a twice, but notice I don't plug a 3 and a -3 in. I plug in a 3 for this a and a 3 for this a. When I do that, look at my work, because I'm inside the parentheses. I say 2 times 3 is 6. I put it right above it. That's fine. And then 3 plus 6 is 9, and I bring down my -3, and that's 6. This one gets a little bit more sticky, because when I plug in a -3, I have -3 for this a, and then 2 times -3. And I'm adding. Well, 2 times -3 is -6. And then -3 plus -6 is -9. Bring down the 3, and I should get -12. Here, xy is not -42. It's multiplying. xy is x times y. So when we plug in the two numbers, we get -8. This is 2xy. It is not 242. It is multiplying. 2 times x times y. 2 times 4 times -2 is going to be a -16. I think I knocked that off when I picked up the board, or when I was setting up. Number 3 is x plus y. 4 plus -2 is 2. That's it for our review. I'll be at school at 7:30 in the morning if you have any questions, but good luck. You're going to do great. Have a great day.